or anything like that. How's everybody doing? Good turnout for today. It's good to see you guys. Hopefully, how many of you are going to regionals? Oh, sweet. How many of you are planning going to state? How many are going with Brett, Brian, and I to Disneyland in Anaheim? Okay. Brett's already whipping out on some of the rides, so we'll get you guys over there. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Kevin Ramsell. Professionally, I'm the Director of Public Relations for ASA Racing. This is coming to my 23rd year being involved with Collegiate DECA. Started out in 1990. I know I'm really old. And I was a state officer. Actually, be my 20-year anniversary coming up next in March. In 1993, I was state officer for Collegiate DECA. Had to replace this person here, so I have big shoes to fill. And been judging since 1998, primarily been judging sports and entertainment marketing event, and it's been one of the coolest things I get to do every year is come back and still judge, and I still get to learn things from what I do and use it towards my job. So it's really cool to come back and steal some ideas from you guys. So.
My name is Dewey. I've been involved in DECA since about 1983. I know that's way. Started out in Wisconsin, moved out to New York. I was New York State President for a year out there, and finally ended up getting a degree in marketing and another degree in '93. So I had like a 10-year in between period. Competed at state. I was one of the first people that competed at entrepreneurship, and did that for 3 years. And now I own a motor coach business and a patient transport business in Madison. So that's a little bit. And I've been involved with alumni and judging for eons. I'm the grandfather around here.
First of all, thank you for having us here tonight. We really appreciate this opportunity to share some of our experiences with you and to listen to you and hear some of the excitement from your voices. It's always rejuvenating to interact with Collegiate DECA members. My name's Holly Gregory. My maiden name was Holly Sturgis Gregory, so if anybody wants to friend me on Facebook, I love having friends on Facebook. You connect with me, please. Professionally, my title is real fancy. It's the Executive Director of High School DECA in Wisconsin. So I'm if any of you know May-Latch, I'm kind of the May-Latch of the high school division. I do all of their event planning. I plan all of their conferences.
But she doesn't scream as loud as me.
So I'm kind of behind the scenes person. You really don't see me a lot at conferences. And so getting out like this, being able to talk to students is really a treat for me. So that's my professional right now. Prior to being the executive director for the high school division of DECA, I worked in retail management for about 13 years. So varied companies, as is the industry. You just move from company to company to get better pay. But it's a great experience, a lot of really good management experience and life lessons learned in that industry. I'm very happy to be doing what I'm doing right now. It's what I went to school for. I wanted to be an event planner for the rest of my life. That's what I went to school for marketing and hospitality management at WCTC in Pewaukee. Graduated with the 2 degrees from there. But didn't really do it right out of college. I got recruited into retail management right away. So it was one of those things where I never got to do what I was really passionate about. And all of a sudden this opportunity kind of fell into my lap. And I got to interview for this position, and I was never nervous for an interview until this interview. But obviously it worked out, and I'm their new executive director. I have been in DECA since actually longer than Dave, and I didn't know that. I've been involved in DECA, yeah, in the high school division since I was a junior in high school. So
I'm a young one.
Well, it's probably about the same, about 30 years now. You know, competed on the state and international level in high school, and competed on the state and international level in college as well. I actually chose my college because it had what we call WMMA, or the Collegiate DECA program at the time. That's why I decided to go to WCTC, because I was such a DECA head, and I wanted to continue the process.
You know her coolest moment, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know her coolest moment ever in DECA happened in 1993. She probably doesn't remember this. She was waiting in line at Splash Mountain at Disney World while a national conference was going on, and the line was stopped, and she couldn't figure out why. Why was it stopped?
Well, Dan Marino and Michael Jackson were both trying to get on the ride at the same time, and they walked right past me. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. But as far as my experience and what I'm going to be talking to you about today to kind of give you guys the confidence that I know what I'm talking about, I did compete. I competed in the role play events all through college. I started off in retail management because it made sense. That's where some of my experience had been. But then I competed in hospitality. I ended up taking first place 2 times in hospitality at the international level, back to back in '92 and then in '93. So I know what it takes to get you up there, and that's what we're going to share with you today.
Made finals, made top 10 in 1992, and in
Yes.
1993 was the year that Wisconsin took home 7 first place awards at nationals.
And I think 5 of them were state officers.
State officers, yeah.
We kind of rock.
It was a pretty wild year.
I was a former state officer, as Kevin mentioned. In '92, '93, I was a former state officer. Kevin took my place as parliamentarian as I was outgoing. He was incoming. And then I served the organization as alumni president, now called PDC,
Yep.
for many years, and worked as, served as a judge and in all different capacities throughout this organization. So it is my life. That may sound silly, but it is.
We're all stuck in it. So.
So, we came here today because we were asked to come here and talk about the competitive events program, and obviously you want to learn about it. And, it's pretty obvious that the competitive events program is that great opportunity to take what you're learning in the classroom, take your work experience and your industry knowledge, and put it all into an environment where you can actually be recognized for your achievements. And it's a safe environment, and that's kind of what we want to talk about today.
Well, you bring up the first slide. The one thing that we have always learned, and when we were back in competing back in our days, we had this fellow student by the name of Mark Adams, who I went to a Madison Technical College with. And Mark Adams came up with a 2-word phrase that really gave a good meaning to what our competitive events was about, and that was these events are resume enhancers. These are events that you can put on your resume that'll make you stand out from everybody else who's getting the same degree as you are and the same background as you are. These things make you stand out as an individual for what you do in this organization.
When I was going to school, I was a single parent, and I was going after 2 degrees. I didn't have time to work. I really didn't, and I really respect the people that are working positions outside of going to school. But I didn't work. So my practical experience, what I was learning in the classroom, and then going through this role play process was my resume when I went out into the workforce. So you can see how valuable it can be, how it can help you make the right connections. How many first-year members did we have here today?
Higher.
High five. And then we kind of got a show of hands before about how many people have attended competitive events in the past, or maybe are going to, but how many have attended competitive events in the past? So you're all kind of familiar with the processes. So some of this that we're going to go over today might be a bit repetitive, but I think it's important for the new people to hear it too. And it really doesn't hurt to hear it again and reinforce some of the key components of it. So, Kyria, since I know your name, tell me about your favorite competitive events experience from a conference. The first thing that pops into your mind.
I don't know, I have a few. Probably my senior year of high school, I took second at ICDC and market research.
Cool. Very cool.
Which is exciting.
Very cool. And so, who else has gone to Matt's gone to internationals? Okay, so if you were to describe internationals in like 3 words.
Oh boy. Just 3 words?
Just 3 words. Like to a new person who's never experienced before, what would you say?
I don't know if I can do it in 3 words. I guess networking, competition, and fun.
Great. Those are great 3 words.
Brian Turner did the T-Bowl in front of the Mormon Tabernacle. I got pictures of that. That was a big national experience.
That was a great international experience. So would you like to kind of elaborate on some of this?
Yeah, so you talk about the networking. This is a unique way for you guys to get to know us and for us to get to know you. One of the things I really enjoyed about this organization and still being involved in 20 years later is I'm making new friends every year. Especially with this chapter here, I can personally say when we went out to Salt Lake City and I had to be your so-called advisor when we were walking around and stuff, it was real neat to meet you guys and see what you guys are doing. And these are friendships that, as you can see from the 3 of us, become lifelong friendships. It's not just friends you meet in college and say on. For me, being involved in Collegiate DECA was like my high school experience. When I don't go back to my high school reunions and stuff, it was a long story there. But this is the reason why I stay connected there. But so it was a long story to tell you. I'll try you on the way home. But when you get to connect with alumni, you find out what jobs are open. The best experience I can give for you was in '94. We helped a gentleman by the name of Pete McCormick win national president. 10 years later, I was working in his insurance agency. Not joking. So it shows you what the networking can do from that part of it. We get another objective is understanding the benefits of our collegiate athletic events program. Whatever you have a passion about, whatever you're interested about, I guarantee you we have an event for you. If you want to do something in finance,
and we're gonna show you how to find out all that information.
Finance and things like that. We're also going to talk about how you can discover the strategies of competitive events. There is a secret to this, and we're going to share that secret with you tonight. And then get all your questions answered. If you guys are nervous about stuff or curious about things, we're not going to hide anything from you guys. We're going to spill all the beans and give you everything we know, so you guys will get ready for Friday.
So please don't be afraid. I provided you guys with a slide breakout of what we're going to be talking about today, so feel free to make notes on those sheets. I also gave you some note cards if you want to jot down some questions as we're going through. If you have questions, please feel free to jot them down. I provided my business card on all the spots too. Don't think that our connection ends here at this meeting. Please call me, please email me, please friend me on Facebook. I am here for you. And some people may say that and not just say it to say it. I really mean it. I am passionate about it and I want to be here to help you. So please, please, please take advantage of it, because I can help coach you individually. We can role play over the phone, anything like that. I'm up for it. Skype, sure. So please take advantage of some of the materials that we've handed out for you today.
One of the things that that I didn't mention before is when I first started, I was in a recreation program with recreation resource management. I had nothing to do with marketing, but it was associated through the marketing program at METC. And I had an advisor come up to me and says, "You ever thought about being involved in DECA?" And I said, "No, I never thought about it." And through his encouragement and other people's encouragement, I got involved. And I never even know, anything about it, but. I had a lot of support from everybody, and went full stream with it. So you might think it's not for you, or it's not, or one of the events is not for you. Just try it. It doesn't hurt, and just whatever feels comfortable with you guys.
The first thing that we said we want to talk about is making those connections. Really grab onto them. If somebody says that they want to have you contact them, contact them. Don't be afraid. And do it within the first few days. Make that initial contact back within the first few days. If you wait a month after this meeting to contact somebody who says that they want you to contact them, they're going to forget about you. Do it in the next couple days or next week or so. Say, hey, I really, I was part of your presentation. I would like to take advantage of this in the future, making this connection. How can we link up? LinkedIn is a great resource. Facebook is a resource, not the greatest, but LinkedIn is a better resource for making those connections. Kevin really summed it up when I was putting together this presentation for us today. Go ahead and talk about the first point, because I think it's really key.
When you meet with a judge, you're going to get a wide variety of judges. You're going to get a wide variety of different perspectives, and that's why I call it subjective review. There's these cases. There's no black or white real answer. There's always a gray area, and your job is to fill in that gray area. And pretty much, as the way I've always explained, the cases are like the frame. It's your job to put the picture within that frame. And the judges will always have a variance of opinions and thoughts in how they score you. So sometimes you'll get a judge who, if you do the same presentation or the same style of presentation, sometimes you'll get a judge who will tag along with you, follow you, know what you're talking about, go all the way through. And then you'll have some judges who you pretty much will take out to lunch. It's one of the downfalls about competing, but at the same time, it's a good way for you to learn what the kind of variety of people that you'll be working with in your career setting, because you're going to work with different people, some of who you'll catch on to, and there's some where you got to sit down and give them a little extra teaching about what you're going to do and such with it. So when you get to that point, don't get frustrated if you get a judge. There was one year I did a presentation about an ATM machine. Back then in the early 90s, they called it a time machine because there was a logo that said time, and it was TYME, which meant to take your money everywhere. And they had the patent logo and everything with it. And I presented this thing out of the Nationals in California, And I told him straight out, I said, I did not create this logo. This is a trademark logo. This is the actual logo they use and stuff. And still, one judge wrote on there, don't like the logo, don't like the color. Yeah, so what can you do but sit there and go, what else can you do? You're going to run into that in the real world as well, too. I try to recruit racetracks all the time, and sometimes you get promoters who get it right away and will sign up, and there's some where you got to sit down and really hold their hand.
I was out in New York. I put together an indoor flea market for my project. Took it out to, and it was a working model actually. Took it out to Seattle, or not, to San Francisco, and presented to the judges out there. Now you got to remember, California is a sunny state, and these judges just couldn't visualize indoor flea markets. They're used to being outside and everything. You're going to run into it. You got, you know, I think the biggest thing that I always try to tell people is that you got to believe in what you're doing. You know, no matter if the judges think it's wrong or right, you know, if you got a positive attitude about your project and what you're doing, it's gonna help you get through it.
To go along with the second point, especially the part of the principle about role plays, play interview process, we do have a former state officer, Sarah Galetta, who one time posted on Facebook, it's a good thing I went through and competed in the collegiate DECA because my interview today was a role play.
Yep, and as a former manager, I used role plays for my interview process when I was the lead store manager. I also used them in the review process. So, I mean, it's an industry trend. More and more companies are utilizing the role play scenario as part of their processes in that type of thing. So, in training and review and in interviews. So it's great practical knowledge that you're gaining just by going through the experience. It's great professional development.
And your judges are industry leaders. They know what they're talking about in their industry. And sometimes, too, these judges could be ones that could be your potential employers. We've heard stories at national conferences where these judges have been just so enthralled with the student that they've asked them, says, tell you what, because you call your parents and have them mail out your clothes, we want to hire you right away.
I was offered a job with Marriott Corporation when I was out in Anaheim. I obviously didn't want to move to California at that time in my life, but I did accept an internship with Marriott back here in Wisconsin because of that connection. So you never know who that judge is across the table and what type of influence they can have.
Didn't Will get his job at American TV
American TV actually got involved, yeah, and then American TV got involved and they started using it as a recruiting process with it. So there's some people in the industry that will come in just for their unique way of trying to get some new help. And get some fresh guys and gals out of college.
So how do you pick which event you're going to do? Where do you start, especially if you're first year people? You know, the most important thing if you're first year, what's your work experience been? Your first run through this, go with what you know. If you worked in retail management, go into retail management this time around. Maybe that's not your career path, maybe that's not exactly the courses you're taking right now, but it's your knowledge base. And it's going to give you a more confident approach when you're approaching the role plays because you're going to have some of that innate knowledge of the industry. Next year, when you compete for the second time, you can take more of the course study that you've been doing, more of the information that you've been gathering here at UW, and really know your career path, have a better understanding of it, and then you can focus on maybe a different one. But really, that first year out, focus on what you know.
If you're not a quick thinker, where you feel like you don't have a half hour, where you feel like you have a half hour of prep time, or an hour if you have a teammate prep time, you think that's going to be too nervous for you, maybe anxiety attacks and everything else, look at doing a prepared event where you can sit down and just plan it all out to where you can do it over and over again to when you walk in and meet with the judges, you're doing their presentation. That's what I did. I got real nervous, and my advisor sat down and said, why don't you try this event here? And at that time, they had an event called Sales Promotion Plan, which I'm sad to say no longer have, but you had to create a 30-day promotion package. And I basically did that, and it was nice because the advisor was able to sit down with me, and I was able to go and do the presentation with it. So there's different ways of doing things. They just introduced a new event this year called Project Management. And if you really want to really do something really in-depth as a prepared event, take a look at that. I mean, it's a long event, but if you're looking at going to project management, check that out too. Some of you guys did entrepreneurship last year, right? You guys, yeah. What did you think about doing that prepared event versus doing something like a case scenario, because you had a taste of the case scenario at your regionals, correct?
Yeah, personally, I prefer prepared events over anything else, because you have a really good opportunity to make things your own too,
Right.
especially in the field of entrepreneurship, which is like my favorite of anything. You can sit there, you make your business, you make your rules, you make your guidelines, you know your field. Your judge can come in, they may have knowledge about it, they may not, so you're the one that really decides the presentation.
Are you gonna start your business? Just out of curiosity.
I have 2 plans right now.
Awesome, very cool.
And the neat thing about the judge, about being involved in that event, is that these judges will give you some ideas of the reality of it, and they'll also give you some suggestions on their feedback form of what you need to do to change it to make it more of a reality.
Did you find that you went back and made some adjustments to it after going through the whole process, or?
Afterwards, Brian and I competed together, actually.
Okay.
And we went into it at state, did fairly well, looked at it again and realized we were doing it horribly.
Okay.
We kind of revised everything. We spent about 40 hours at least,
Sure.
just completely redoing everything and making sure that it fit pretty well.
Have you found that any of the prepared case scenarios are something that you can use as projects here at
Oh,
school?
definitely.
Awesome. Do you guys, and this is just me finding out about your school a little bit too, do you guys find that your advisors are in support of that type of thing? Like, do they ever promote projects as projects for classes, or do they talk about this and give you that as an assignment?
Definitely. I'm in a lot of entrepreneurship classes because my major is entrepreneurship. Going into it, we do have a lot of projects that are just like this.
Okay.
So a lot of times I can go into it being like, I've already done this.
Sure. Great, that's awesome.
And if
That's
you're a
great to
first-year
hear.
student, look at those team events too. If you don't want to go into a role-play event by yourself, but maybe you team yourself up with someone who's going to for a second year. You'll go in there with someone with some experience and kind of lean back on them and let them kind of say what you've done in the past and learn from them, and do the same thing next year with the new students.
You got any alumni that associated with Whitewater?
Our first alumni graduated last year.
Brandon.
Okay.
7 of them.
We're working on it.
So I think what's really important to talk about is the most awkward part of role plays, and that's the whole walking up to the judge, introducing yourself thing. It never seems to be seamless unless you have a plan. So everybody just stand up for a second. Been sitting for a few minutes now. Turn to the person next to you. What I'd like you to do is make eye contact, give them a firm handshake, exchange names, and then give them a reason why you're here today.
Do I look judgmental?
Alright, hi.
Wait, you two don't count.
Thank you for asking each other.
And
this is how great
Okay, we can bring it back in.
A nice firm hand.
I was just making a small talk. Oh my gosh, when you leave us right now, right?
How many of you were impressed with the handshake of your partner?
Brett, you better been impressed.
If you weren't, I think it's important to share that information with your partner and say, hey, maybe it's you know, if you're not touching here, you might, if you're not touching here, it may not be the best handshake in the world. You know what I mean? And you don't want to like do the I'm scared to death of you. The key is touching this little part here and making that.
We're giving a limp wrist.
Yeah.
I did that one year to a friend of mine who was judging, and he came in the room. He was one. It was Nick Brello. If anybody knows Nick from things, Nick comes walking. How you doing? Good to see you. He puts his hand out. I do this. It threw him off the entire case. He still hates me today for that. So.
And base the strength of your grasp on who's grasping you. If they're grasping you really weak, just kind of go with the flow. You know, go with the flow. Don't overwhelm them. Or if they're being overwhelming, don't grab them back. Or you just kind of go with the flow, and it'll feel right. And you guys.
Or with Superman 2. Anybody see Superman 2? The handshake. And watch Superman 2. Watch the handshake.
So the important thing is is knowing how and when to start the role play. And what's really important is that your series director, the person who's in charge of your event, is letting you know what the scenario is going to be. Your role play will tell you this, but it's oftentimes you may have one judge, you may have 3 judges. It's important to know, and don't be afraid to ask your series director who you're role playing with. Am I role playing with all 3 judges, or am I role playing with 1 judge? It is really important to know that information. If you go in there thinking you're role playing with 1 judge and you ignore the other 2 judges, guess what's going to happen?
And if the series director doesn't know, don't be afraid to ask when you start out going, okay, are you the CEO of the company? And they'll either say yes or no, or sometimes the judges will play along with you, say if you're the CEO, they'll say yes, and you just realize the other 2 are the assistants with it. Before you actually start the role play, just walk up and say, I just want to be clear how we're going to play this today, especially if there's more than 1 judge there. Am I role playing to all of you, or am I role playing to 1 of you? Just so I'm clear. And then just take a step back and come in like you're coming into a business meeting. You know, this person probably in most cases knows who you are, you've met, or so you have that personal relationship in a lot of the cases. You have to really read your case and know. But the cases will state you are presenting to who you are, who they are, so we already know our role. I hate it when students walk in, my name is Bob and I am part of XYZ company. You are my judge as the CEO. Okay, are we ready to go? Oh yeah, you got me all pumped up. Let's do this. You know,
you really could practice ahead of time and have three pretty general type of introductions that you could format to meet any type of role play situation. You could walk in and shake hands with the judge and say, thank you, Mr. Smith. I am so excited that you're giving me this opportunity this morning. These are the things that I'd like to talk to you about. Is it okay if I take a seat? You know, that's just one. You're smoothing transitioning in. You know, you may want to make it more case specific, maybe not. But the key here is have them canned. Practice them ahead of time. I used to seriously, you guys are going to think I'm a total dork. I used to sit there in the mirror in the morning and practice these things. So it seemed smooth. I am not the smoothest presenter in front of people. I get nervous. I like having notes. And when you're in this extemporaneous type of situation where you're role playing like this, you want to stay smooth. So if you have that practice down, it just seems like you're in control. And that's really kind of the key.
I get more impressed with somebody that comes up and sort of a take charge. If I have to draw you out and try to, you know, lead you on, I'm just, goodbye. I mean,
1 year I judged finals at, there used to be an event at Nationals called e-commerce. And with the case scenario had to be where you work part of a credit card company and you're the public relations director and someone hacked into your account and stole a bunch of credit card numbers. I actually had a guy that came in and he won first place and he sat down and he says, good to meet you, we don't have a lot of time. We got a problem here, we got to get it fixed right away. And he just went into it and I'm just like, go for it. He was really into the role because he knew there was a sense of urgency. He didn't want to sit down and have the small talk, he wanted to get right into it.
Can anyone tell me what a performance indicator is?
Sure, I can.
Okay, well, does anybody else want to go? They are the key points that you're supposed to hit, and then the judges' rubrics are based off of those. So.
Oh, you rock my world. That's exactly what I wanted to get across. If you guys, oh, we should hand out prizes. Give her a prize.
Okay, we'll give you a prize.
What are we doing if we're getting our prizes? No, this is the key. Key. If you guys take anything away from this meeting today, please hear me when I say this. Your performance indicators exactly mirror the judge's evaluation form. The key to success in preparing your outline for a presentation is to use the performance indicators as your outline. Okay, that is the secret of success. Don't start trying to solve the problem or do anything else. The first thing you need to do when you sit down at that prep table, before you even read the case, write down those performance indicators on your piece of paper. Write down the first one, which in this case is explain the, oh my gosh, let me
get your glasses.
You know, write that one down, leave some space.
Explain the concept of marketing strategies.
There you go. Write that down, leave some space. Write number 2, leave some space. So on and so forth through all 5. And then go into your role play and really experience this. Where do you find performance indicators? You said via the internet, right?
The key thing, the reason why we bring this up is this is something that they've really stressed, and I say about just about all the events except for the prepared events. Any role play event is going to have these performance indicators. And the reason why we stress this is what we judge you on. Typically on a rubric sheet, we'll have like the 5 performance indicators and then overall.
And an overall, right?
Yeah.
And I think that district, so I think there was a little some modification to it. There was more breakdown as far as the overall stuff goes this year, which I think should help you students out. But the 5, where the major points are, all revolve around the performance indicators. That's why we're stressing that tonight as a real important thing for you to take a look at.
Do you guys utilize the DECA website? Awesome, good to know. You are probably one of the few chapters that really do, and that's probably one of the secrets of your success in past years.
There's a quick link to it from our regular
Awesome.
website.
That's so awesome that you're doing that. You can find out all the information. If you want to find out more about an event, you know, the link that you can find, go to the main page, deca.org, go to events, go to collegiate, and it'll take you to this page. And it shows you all of the performance indicators. And you can actually press on this button and it's going to pop up a document with performance indicators. What do you need to know to do well in this event? Does it apply to some of the classes? Does it apply to some of the industry knowledge that you already have? And you can take a look at this and really see if the event is right for you. Plus, it gives you kind of a study guide. You know, maybe this month you're going to study the first 25 performance indicators and make sure you have some knowledge base. Maybe you're going to go out and schedule an interview with an industry professional and ask them some questions about those performance indicators and find out, listen to some terminology, that type of thing. But it's important to understand and know the performance indicators. That's how you know you're going to connect to an event.
If you go back to the page 2, there's also a sample case that you can take a look at. And from one event I looked at was a case that was presented that you had at the state conference last year. And then there's, so you can actually see a case that's been in use, the performance indicators, get yourself prepared there. And then there's also the evaluation sheet that goes along with that case so you can see how the performance indicator matches up with that specific case. So
the judges are set so that they only ask you certain questions. They're supposed to ask you up to 3 questions.
I'll go there.
But then, if they want to ask you more, they have to be, every student has to have that question.
you guys stay pretty consistent with that.
Yeah, so we try to be consistent, we try to, that's why I say, sometimes I feel like I'm drawing out the answers, and some people hit it right on the dot, so.
So, I told you that my little secret of success is using those performance indicators as your basic outline. And that, like I was telling Kevin and Dave, it's kind of like the batter in your cake mix. That's your base.
Because the questions are usually off of those performances.
Right. And if you have those things listed out on your paper, you know that at least you can talk about it. Maybe your knowledge base isn't expansive about it, but at least you can mention it and know that you have to talk about it. I'll tell you something that happened to me at ICDC in '93 when I actually took first, and I still can't believe I did this. I was going back into finals, and the case study was put in front of me, and I wrote down my performance indicators like I always do, and my mind was blank. I could not think of anything. I didn't know how to build on any of the performance indicators. My mind I just froze. I had a complete anxiety, and I completely froze up. And I'm standing, time's up, and I have 5 things written on my paper. That's all I had. And I'm going in for my final event at ICDC, and I'm sitting there in line kind of waiting for my judge to finish up the evaluation from the person before, and all of a sudden something just sparked in my head, a concept. Well, even though I didn't have any expansive notes written on that piece of paper, I was able to take that concept and tie it into my performance indicators. I had my outline down there, so I could direct those thoughts as they were kind of popping into my mind. So don't let those situations stress you out. If you have that key resource right in front of you, it's kind of like your guiding, your North Star, kind of guiding you through it. Talked about the batter. That's the batter.
Yeah.
What do you do to expand it? What's the icing on the cake? Go ahead, talk about some things, Kevin.
Okay, Holly. The main thing is that you want to have, and I just wrote something about this the other day. I'll probably go on DECA Direct later this week, decadirect.org, structure behind your presentation. The biggest problem that we all run into with judges is we get students who read a case, and all of a sudden all these ideas flow in your head. And you're just writing down all these ideas, and all of a sudden, time's up, you got to go present a judge. You walk in the judge, and all you're doing is give him a list of ideas, and you're going, okay, what do you think? That's how your close is. And you're sitting going, okay, okay, nice list. But if the case to ask you to create like a promotion plan, a marketing plan, don't be afraid to get out a calendar and kind of structure something together. And you want, by structuring your presentation together, it's going to give you a better chance to put a close together of either a future meeting or why not it's a no or go, no-go on this whole thing. So the key thing you want to do is put structure together, and you can do that with your performance indicators, and then basically surround yourself with like a storyline, almost like when you read a book or something. Create like that storyline and put those performance indicators within that storyline.
If a judge asks you a question and you don't know the answer, don't try to bullcrap your way through it. Say, that's a great question. I tell you what, I don't know the answer, but I will get back right, to you.
More than likely, they're going to ask you a question that you've already answered. More than likely, though, if you're touched on the performance indicators, and what they're trying to do is trick you up. They want to make sure that you're sticking to your guns and that you believe in what you're trying to present to them. Don't let a judge's question throw you. If you have a plan in place, don't let the judge try to sway you with a question. Stick to your original idea and sell it to them. That's an opportunity to really sell your idea and bring it home.
Real funny story. You mentioned the letters B and S. They make that one word. The thing is, when you're dealing with industry leaders, they know the industry. They know when you're going to be making something up. The best example I can give to you is 9 years ago, I was judging sports entertainment marketing at state conference. The student team knew I worked in auto racing. They knew I knew Matt Kensa. So the guy, you can tell he was pulling ideas out of his head. And he looks at me, and this whole plan was, how are you going to put together a county fair? What kind of events are you going to do with county fair? You can tell that they were just grasping straws. I don't know what they did for their 1 hour prep time. Then all of a sudden he looks at me and goes, we're going to bring in Matt Kensa to do an autograph session. And I kind of sat back and said, really? Yep. I said, cool. How much is that going to cost us? Well, since he lives nearby Cambridge, so it's only like a 45-minute drive for him, we can probably have him do it for $2,500. And I went, yeah, okay. They walked out of the room, and the event director comes in and sits down and says, how'd those guys do? I said, terrible. I said, why? He goes, they're out there high-fiving thinking they just nailed it. What they didn't realize is, one, that Matt does not live in Cambridge. He's a native of Cambridge. He lives in Mooresville, North Carolina. And for him to come up to Wisconsin, he's got to fly his own jet plane up here. You know what it cost for him to do a 2-hour autograph session back in 2004? $17,000. Because a lot of that covers his jet fuel to come up and do it. You think they're a little bit off.
So the example that Kevin just gave you really supports some of the points on this next slide that's up here in front of you. Is, doing that industry research, knowing industry trends, using terminology, but using it wisely. Knowing what you're talking about. But the judges like to know that you're using that terminology. So this may require some outside research and talking to industry professionals, which is great. You're making more connections.
Yeah, you did.
I know we're running short on time, so I'm kind of speeding you guys through this just a little bit. But I call this the rock star tricks. I mean, it's really true. There are some things that are going to make you stand out, and we've talked about it a little bit here and there. It's like, don't fear the situation, control the situation. That's really, really key. Understand that the judges on the other side of the table have just received this event, probably a half hour before you got it, or that same day. So they're as unfamiliar with the event as you are. Okay, they want to give you a good role play. So I don't want to say they're nervous, but they're concerned that their interaction with you is going to be a good interaction. No judge is ever going to want you to suck. They're going to be rooting for you. They're going to want you to do well. So don't fear the judge. Most of them are like us. We're here to help you. We're here to be coaches. We're here to be mentors. So please keep that in your mind as you're going through it.
The best example I can give to this was sports entertainment marketing is probably one of the more popular events. We probably will see anywhere from 12 to 13 teams at state. It's a long day of judging. And what can make it real long is when you get just one bland case scenario after another. Like this guy's falling asleep here. But there was one year that we had like a panel of 6 or 7 judges, and every team could not get the concept of what they had to do with this case. And we just sat there and just shaking our head all day long. Last team that came in and got it. They left the room, us judges were high-fiving each other. Going,
we do.
You were in that group, yeah.
It's like
They stayed at La Quinta.
it's like such a good rush for the judge when you give a good presentation, and we're like so excited for you.
It's sell the deal, sell the deal.
Yeah.
Always think that in the bottom of your head, that just when you, right before you get out of there, you want to be able to sell the deal and get them the handshake and get them to say, well, can I call you tomorrow?
Right.
You know, I know you have a busy schedule, you know, and I know this is all in. If you have any questions, I tell you what, I'll call you tomorrow, and or talk to your secretary. We can set up another time for, you know, if you have any more questions.
I actually heard this at districts a couple weeks ago, high school team. This is probably freshman, sophomore, because the event was more towards freshman, sophomore. This is how they ended the case. Well, I know you're busy, but take a look at this, and how about we schedule a meeting next Wednesday at 5 o'clock? Would that work for you, or you want me to check with your administrative assistant?
Boom.
Yeah.
Close the deal. That is awesome.
And I sat there going,
Because, I mean, like he said, and I over-exaggerating, but we sit at this table, and we're sitting there for hours, and we're listening to all this, and if there isn't somebody out there that just completely, you know, brings back some light, I mean, we're not going to be happy. You know,
And speaking to that, creativity and getting the judge involved is essential.
Yeah.
There are ways, little tricks that you can do that are so simple, you guys. I mean, you're not allowed to bring things into the prep area, but you can utilize the paper that's there. You can utilize the paper however you want to utilize the paper. If you want to have a blank piece of paper and pretend it's an iPad, you can do that. If you want to have a blank piece of paper and fold it in 3 and use it as a brochure, you can do that. And I'm not saying spend a lot of time with artwork and design on the paper. It can be a blank piece of paper. I've done that.
Yep.
But you can then put it in front of the judge and say, look at this presentation I prepared for you. It'll illustrate this and this and this. It'll help you illustrate the points that you're trying to make. And it's getting the judge involved. And they'll play with you. They'll role play with you. They'll go along with it. They'll run with it.
if you're doing a retail event and it's an area of promotion, and you got to think about putting out a new ad flyer, create the ad flyer in that piece of paper. I did that and got first place one year. It's the only time ever I got first place in something. But I sat down and said, this is what the ad's going to look like. And they sat there and went, okay. And because they got to see it visually with them. Now, speaking of visuals, without going too far off, I want to bring up the thing about using PowerPoints and things like that. If you're doing a prepared event, PowerPoints can work because you have time to put all that together in this presentation. And sometimes with prepared events at state and national, you're usually in a little bigger room. Where in the role play event, you're pretty much walking to like a trade show area where they got curtains up and you got like a 3-foot table between each other. Think about the fact, there's a PowerPoint, if you're going to spend a half hour or an hour in a team event, it's creating a PowerPoint versus creating the substance of your solution. Is that going to make or break you? And I'm going to tell you something as a judge, your PowerPoint does not give you added scores. It's a substance of what we get from your presentation that gets your score.
Right.
You can sit there and make the coolest PowerPoint in the world. It doesn't make a difference. It also could hurt you. One year they had a sports entertainment. They had to come up with a promotion plan for the musical Rent. And you're not allowed to use the internet. And they had to come into the PowerPoint and used the menu bar that's on the Rent website. It was a clear violation. We had to disqualify him for that. I said, you can't tell me they just made that up. And sure enough, I got on my iPhone, went to rentthemusical.com, and sure enough, matched what was on their thing. So, and then going back to one other thing real quick, is when they talked about getting the judge involved, and the judge will know more. Don't go and try and BS your way if you don't know something. When we talk about Rent the Musical, I have about 4 teams say it's a great family musical. Yeah.
So we already kind of touched on the fact that judges want you to succeed. They're here to help you. Keeping it real is really important, like we've talked about several times. Using that industry terminology, being realistic about the scenario. I put this on the end, but not street real. I have been called dude. Hey dude,
Rock on.
rock on, this is gonna rock. You know, keep it out of the scenarios. It just doesn't work. Judges don't get it. Off-color humor. Don't try to be funny in that way during presentations. It just doesn't work. Judges are not allowed to tell you your score or even how you did individually. So don't ask, because it just puts the judge in an awkward position. However, what I highly recommend, I mean not even recommend, I make it like you have to go do this, is go to debriefing. This is your true opportunity to connect with your judge. Exchange a business card, find out, get their business card, connect with them on LinkedIn, Use those networking skills. After the conference, you're going to get your evaluation sheets back. They're going to maybe have judges' notes on it. And then you can maybe contact that judge and say, what exactly do you mean by this? And they'll remember that. They'll appreciate that. They put a lot of effort into putting those notes together for you.
Well, some people do, because I'm the judge that, you know, when you fill out these survey things, you can mark the spots. When it comes to comments, I hate writing.
Oh.
So I like debriefing. Yeah, see, I love debriefing because then it's easier for me to, you know, to talk about things instead of sitting there writing all the time, you know.
What's unique about Wisconsin at the state conference is Saturday nights, a lot of us are around after the award session on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And a lot of times your advisors will give you your evaluations that night. I have no problem meeting with you that Saturday night. She has no problem. If he's not driving a bus somewhere, he's got no problem sitting down with you in the lobby of the hotel and just talking to you about, specifically about your case, because he has your evaluation, so you can kind of go back and review it. That's no problem there.
I gave you guys a resource. It's called Strategic Planning for Competitive Events. It's the second page. It is exactly that, a strategic plan. What do you want to accomplish? Do you want to take first place at ICDC this year? Put that as your goal. How are you going to get there? The first step in making a goal is putting it in writing and making it realistic to you. So use this as a resource. Maybe go to regionals. I almost said districts because that's what we call them in high school. Go to regionals on Friday. Take that as a very valuable learning lesson, and then come back and really realistically fill out this strategic plan and utilize it. I mean, what type of things are you going to do between regionals and state to improve yourself, to get you up on those podiums at the state conference?
And talk to other people, you know, that took a different event. I mean, you see how they feel and see, well, maybe that would fit more into what I, you know, am more comfortable in. I mean, if you go into the event and you're just like, oh man, I just blew the whole thing. I mean, there might be something else that's out there. So, you know, talk amongst you.
And, you know, a real key to success is practicing. You know, going onto the DECA website, even if it's an event that's not in what you're planning on doing, if you practice doing role play scenarios, you're going to get the routine down, get your pattern down for competing in role play. Actually give yourself how long do you guys get to prep? 30 minutes, right?
30 minutes for individual.
High school level, it's 10 minutes for the individual.
But it depends on what the event is. It's 10 and 10 for match or
No,
decision.
on the college level, it's pretty much an individual.
But give yourself the actual prep time for the event. Sit down, actually prep for it, and then present it to somebody. Grab a video camera and record yourselves. And the last item on this list, I didn't put it last because it's not important. I put it last because it's the most important thing, is practice taking exams. Be an expert at the exams because they count twice. If you make it past the individuals and go back into finals, your exam counts again. So it's super, super important to get good scores on those written exams.
Any questions? Oh, Matt, first of all, before you take questions, do you guys have like some of the past cases and exams that students could probably get?
Yes, we do. If anyone wants to practice things or look over some stuff, feel free to contact any of the e-board officers. We have a lot of great resources for you guys to use.
And I know we have to wrap it up, but I just really want to give you guys an opportunity that I took advantage of when I was in college. I judged. I got on the other side of the table, and I was a judge. And I'm offering that opportunity for you guys to come to our state. For the low price of? Yeah, for nothing. Come to our state conference and be a judge. It's a great, great opportunity. It doesn't take a lot of time. Our state conference judging would be on Wednesday morning, March 20th. You'd arrive around 8 a.m. and you'd be out of there by lunchtime.
Get a free lunch too.
Get a free lunch. It's in Lake Geneva. It's in Lake Geneva, so it's just a short drive away. I do have flyers. I also included the links in the PowerPoint, so if you want to share that with your group, that would be awesome. The other opportunity for those of you that are maybe wanting to pursue careers in event planning or are interested about conferences, or maybe you just want to see what high school DECA is all about, we offer a paid internship to our state conference. You get $100 for coming. You get a free room for the stay. You get to be my grunt. And you get to experience what I have to do behind the scenes.
Got to go to the water park. It was cool.
Behind the scenes at a conference. And it's really interesting. There is an application process. The application process was actually due today, but if you guys do want to pick this up and submit it to me in the next couple days, I would definitely consider that. I have these 2 forms up here.
And it's at Grand Geneva Resort, so it's a nice place.
Right.
It's a beautiful place.
Okay?
Any quick questions?
I didn't leave a whole lot of time for questions. I'm sorry.
Wow, we're that good.
Was this helpful?
Yes.
Yes.
I know the 3 of us together, we can And I really wanted to get you guys asking more questions, so I apologize. But we're here, you have our information, so.
Well, I
gotta tell you something real quick. When I was New York State President, I hated to get up talking to people. And the first time I had the whole state in front of me, they put me up on a podium and the lights were right at my eye level. With my height, I couldn't see a thing out there. And I just froze. It was just like, but after that, you know these guys, I can't shut up.
I never get nervous when I speak. If you ever get, you know what really worked for me is I did improvisational comedy workshops. Because I learned if they're like comedy sports stuff, and I learned if you're gonna make what's your biggest fear when you go up on stage? Why you're nervous? Because you're afraid you're gonna make a fool of yourself. So you might as well learn how to make a fool of yourself.
You do it all the time.
I know. See,
So thank you so much for your attention today. We really appreciate it. Please stop by and get them.
Oh, thanks.
And I will be at regionals on Friday, having this again. So in case you change your mind, you didn't get today, I'll be there again. You'll be there. Thank you.
So Brian's running for city office now.
Yes, and then we have my baby doll stuff.
Information for the stars.
Where's everybody? Am I vice president?
And you guys, if you have friends that you want to bring, they don't have to be in DECA to come do this. If you want to bring a friend that you think would enjoy this time, please. Where's you welcome that? Oh, okay. Here, I wonder if you're